Chapter 5, Due Process, Student Discipline, Athletics, and Title IX. Kristen Herring, EDLD, Developing Leaders, under Dr. Kimberly Wilkerson. Leadership Perspectives. I looked through the PSEL standards from 2015 and found that this aligned most closely with Standard 2. Educational leaders have high morals and seek to provide a fair environment that encompasses respect for cultural awareness. It is the student's responsibility to align their behaviors with the school rules, and it is the student's rights to have reasonable school rules with equitable and moral treatment. Stator 2013. Students' rights in the well-ordered schools. A low disorder school, or in a low disorder school, principals and teachers support the school due to these characteristics. Together, they share responsibilities, offer support, they are team players, they're equitable, secure environment is offered, and they desire high student achievement. In well-ordered schools, rights of students are made equitable. Educational leaders can expect students to know and comprehend the students' expectations. Educational leaders can expect students to follow all the rules, so long as they are reasonable. Stakeholders can hold educational leaders accountable for equity and appropriate expectations. And stakeholders can share in the development of school culture and ownership of the division of rights and responsibilities. Stator 2013. Due process in the 5th Amendment and the 14th Amendment. Two important terms that I learned were property interest, which makes education a right for all in a public school, and liberty interest, which is a protection from harm to a person's name that can impact a person's future opportunities. So educational leaders have to keep both of those in mind when it comes to discipline on campus. Due process requires fair and adequate procedures in decision-making and must be provided according to the 5th and 14th Amendments to all students. Procedural due process. An administrator provides notice of an issue and a right to a hearing. So for suspensions, they can be 1 to 10 days, and that's removal of the student from class. In order to do that, due process is required. You have to offer that due process. Students are allowed the right to a quick hearing, and reversal of this suspension may be decided. Suspensions may be immediate if a danger to others is a possibility, and it is not required that you provide a reading of their Miranda rights or grade their missing work while they are suspended. Expulsions. Anytime there's an expulsion, a hearing is required. There has to be clear written description of the expulsion provided to the parents. They are allowed that hearing with legal advocates present. The student can provide defense and question all involved in the situation. This decision doesn't have to be without a reasonable doubt, and it can be based on preponderance of evidence. Stator 2013. In substantive due process, all 4 of these questions must be answered as yes. And substantive due process occurs when an analysis of the process for equitable measures is taken by the educational leaders, and that would be using these questions. 1, does the rule or policy provide adequate notice of what conduct is prohibited? So is it comprehensible by the students? Can we understand? 2, does the rule or policy serve a legitimate educational purpose? That means in place. Is it in place to protect the quality of education and students? 3, is the consequence reasonably or rationally connected to the offense? So is that consequence there with good reason? Does it match the offense that the student has committed? And 4, is the rule or policy applied equitably? Is everyone involved given similar discipline with similar effects? Stator 2013. Corporal punishment and excessive force. Corporal punishment means inflicting punishment that brings pain or restraint to an individual. It's important to note it is not legal in all states. States may have guidelines in place for corporal punishment, or require districts to create them themselves. Educational leaders are protected when using corporal punishment. But there is a shocks of conscience in place, which considers the intent of injury or whether there was no intent to injure at all. And these are the 4 things in question. Is there a pedagogical justification for inflicting the pain? Was the pain excessive? Was there effort to restore order or cause injury? And was the student injured? Stator 2013. Student suspension or expulsion for off-campus behavior. Some states have laws that give districts the right to refuse to accept students who have been convicted of a felony. There are states that have laws that allow long-term dismissal or refusal to accept students who have committed a serious criminal offense, whether they were charged or convicted. Districts must be able to explain how accepting the student will be a disruption to the learning process before they are denied, and there are key guidelines to follow. They have to follow state laws, make sure that the stakeholders have been well informed about the consequences of the behavior when off campus. They have to identify the reason that they think school would be disrupted, collect evidence to support the decision, and adhere to all IDEA and 504 laws. Stator 2013. Extracurricular activities and Title IX. Title IX cannot deny any educational program due to a person's gender. This includes admission, recruitment, courses, harassment based on gender, physical education requirements, educational programs and activities, employment, and equal athletic opportunities for all. Title IX tests for equity in colleges includes the following. Equal numbers of students are able to participate in all activities. Efforts are being made to grow the programs where one gender is underrepresented, and accommodations are being made to assist genders who are struggling in programs. Stator 2013. Title IX and pregnancy. Educational leaders are not able to ban students from access due to pregnancy, treatment, childbirth, abortion, or postpartum delivery. And these are the guidelines to follow for those circumstances if a student presents with any of them. 1, they cannot be denied access to any educational program. They can be required to submit a doctor's note stating that the student is capable of participating in an activity, but that same requirement must be given to all students with any physical or emotional issues. 3, they are to be treated the same as anyone with a temporary disability. And 4, they should be allowed medical leave of absence if justified by the doctor. Stator 2013. Just as a reflection, as I will be an educational leader, it will be my job as an educational leader to provide a safe and secure school for employees and students. Remember that some rights are limited on school campus, but not removed completely. And it will be important to take action when students or employees participate in behavior that impacts learning or disrupts learning.